Today, we turn our attention to a deeply distressing issue, that is child sexual abuse in Kibera, one of the Nairobi's largest informal settlements. Kibera is home to hundreds of thousands of people living in densely populated area, grappling with poverty, inadequate housing, and limited access to basic services. Amid these challenges, a disastrous problem persists, that is child sexual abuse. The reality to many children in Kibera is harsh. In overcrowded environments, children are always left unattended to, while parents and guardians work for long hours. According to the reports from various NGOs, incidents of child sexual abuse are alarmingly high in slums.
Names are Millicent Akinyi. I come from Guru Konjenga. I work for Nairobi Ladies CBO, which deals with survivors of sexual violence. So we have support and resources from the government and the civil societies, which include legal support from the government, medical support from the government again, and some civil societies. The other thing again we have is the psychosocial support from the civil societies, and economic empowerment again from both civil societies and our community-based organization. The child sexual violence is prevalent depending on the demographic and regions. If you go in slums, the prevalence is very high than suburbs. In towns, the prevalence is very high than the rural areas. I don't know why it is very high because of the regions, maybe because of poverty and congestion. In towns, people are more, and in slums, most cases are reported. That's why maybe the data shows that it's very prevalent rather than suburbs. Suburbs, maybe we don't say that sexual violence for children is not there, but most cases are not reported in the suburbs. Yeah.
The psychological and physical impact on these young victims are profound. Children subjected to sexual abuse face long-term trauma, which can manifest as depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts coming in. The challenge of accessing mental health services only exacerbates the situation. Community organizations are striving to address the issue through providing support and counseling for the abused children and their families.
My name is Pauline Akinyi Juma from Rebirth of a Queen organization, and we champion for survivors of sexual violence and human trafficking in Kenya. And the best practices for intervening when we spot abuse, number one is to ensure that the survivor is safe and they have received medical support, medical intervention, and it is it's up to 72 hours. And then after that, we need to ensure also that the survivor is receiving psychosocial support and the survivor is safe. If that community where the survivor is not safe, they need to be moved out. And the other thing is to ensure that the survivor has gotten justice, and justice is different for each and every survivor. All survivors need justice. Some of them want legal justice, some of them want education justice, some of them want economic empowerment justice. So working together with the survivor to define justice is what again is really important, and ensuring for every decision that you're making, the survivor is at the center of it all.
There are systematic gaps and challenges that make eradicating the children's sexual abuse in slums difficult. Poverty, lack of awareness, inadequate law enforcement contribute to the persistence of the menace. To create a meaningful change, a combined approach involving the government, non-profit organizations, and the community is essential. The Kenyan government has enacted laws to protect children under the Children Act 2022. But implementation remains a challenge. Strengthening law enforcement and judicial services is critical to ensuring that perpetrators are held accountable and that victims receive justice. Adagala, an expert, is trying to give some of the solutions that can be worthwhile in curbing the menace.
Jina naitwa Kenneth Adagala ama Adagala from Makadara Social Justice and Information Center. Personally, I would like to say that we have so many child violation sexually, but we can as well have to prevent this. And I know one of the areas and one of the things that we can do to prevent child sexual abuse is one by educating them through basic education in primary school or in the communities to ensure that they are safe, and if they have been violated, they are in a position to report these issues. Secondly, is also to make sure that they have been given a very good environment to work and to also learn, so that you don't allow maybe teachers or any other perpetrators to come in contact with them and maybe violate them. And then the third issue is when you have children at home, make sure that you always interrogate them and also learn to listen in case there's any violation that have taken place during the day. Then lastly, we have the law. In the Kenyan context, we have the Children Act, we have the Sexual Offences Act. Make sure that they are also aware of it, and if the perpetrators are found, the only way to eliminate and end child sexual abuse is through prosecuting of the perpetrators.
The consequences of children's sexual abuse are grave and impact adversely on the health and well-being of the affected individuals. Historically, women, girls, and children have borne the brunt of harmful cultural norms and practices, yet the experience of children violation are often dismissed, trivialized, ignored, and normalized by society, including a large population of men and women themselves and perpetrators of the CSA, or as you can call it, child sexual abuse, often protected by the communities and seldom held accountable for their actions.
Cindy Akot, I'm a gender and development practitioner, and I currently work at Wangupanja Foundation, which is a non-governmental organization working to address sexual violence in regards to prevention, protection, and response. And our target is children and adults from all diversities. Sexual violence sexual violence affecting children is one of the most prevalent forms of sexual violence, because of how children are vulnerable and how most of the perpetrators do take advantage of their vulnerability and their inability to make sound decisions. Because in the Kenyan law, sexual violence against children or sexual violence against any individual who is below 18 years, which by the Kenyan law is defined as a child, is termed as defilement. And some of the warning signs or some of the risk signs or factors that parents can look at, or teachers or immediate guardians to individuals or children who may have been abused or attempted abuse may have come their way, is probably them withdrawing from the peers or just from other family members, change in behavior from how they are communicating. It could be just them showing signs of anxiety or panic attacks. So all the risk factors or signs that are related to an individual who is appearing to have gone through a traumatic experience are one of the signs that one needs to look out for in a child. And then for other children, they can also express this through writing or through songs. It just depends on how the child reacted to the trauma, because different people react to trauma differently. And then some of the risk factors, it could be because sometimes parents let children ride with boda riders to school. Some of these arrangements may not be safe to kids because it exposes them to these vulnerabilities and risks of them being abused, because some immediate family members in the household setup or teachers who are supposed to take care of their students in school are also end up violating them. And you realize for sexual violence, it's a very traumatic experience that when it affects an individual, especially a child who's still in the development stages, it ends up impacting them in ways that cannot be defined, because it causes a wound in them that will take time for them to heal. So it calls upon for support, and support is holistic. It can be psychosocial support, it's medical support, it's legal support, and it's important to also seek support from institutions or government entities that are existing to support survivors of sexual violence like ourselves. We also have in terms of support available, apart from the other institutions available, Wangupanja Foundation also has a toll-free line, 1519, that is available for users to report cases of sexual violence, and it's free on Airtel and Safaricom lines. So we can also just ensure that we teach our children that if somebody touches you inappropriately, and we need to define exclusively what inappropriate touching means. If somebody touches your breast or your private area or your genital area, then that is already a risk sign. So we need to have candid conversations with our children, be open, letting them know that we are available for them to give us feedback or to let us know if anyone is trying to infringe on their rights. Also to having conversations with them about what is right for somebody to do unto their bodies and what is not right. Because with this, it is easier for us to identify this at early ages. Because sometimes you get instances where a child is defiled in the same setting where the parents are there, the perpetrator is there, they're defiled from as low as the age of 5 to
13 years is when they get the courage to come out. But if they had the support system, then they would have come out as at that time.
Effects of CSA are equally felt at the community, family, and societal level, and continue to be an impediment to the optimal participation of the victims in development. The plight of children in Kenya and in slums is a call to action. Everybody has a role to play in safeguarding our future generations. My name is Otieno Tony.